your basic needs. It's not a crime to import. The problem is what we are importing. So we get to a point where at least our basic needs can be met locally. And many of the countries where we import from, by the way, will be more than happy to come and set up in Nigeria, but they wouldn't do that until the atmosphere and the environment is at least clear. There will always be uncertainties in life. You cannot control the price of crude oil. You cannot control whether Donald Trump will win America's election. You cannot control whether Britain will leave the EU. But there are so many uncertainties we've placed upon ourselves that we can control. We can control our fiscal policies. We can control our monetary policies. We can control whether we deregulate. We have refineries that have never really worked, yet we don't want to fully deregulate. And even when we do deregulate, we give those things to friends of politicians who have no clue of what to do with those assets. If you look at it and say, look at the energy sector, 180 million people almost living in darkness. It's a no-brainer. You don't need to do road shows for foreign investors to know this is printing money, life. But you would only come when you know that when you put $2, $3, $4 billion into the investment, you have certainty as to what will happen to that investment. And I like to use the example of NLNG as a case study, Nigeria NLNG. About $6 billion was invested. Before then, we're flaring gas like there was no tomorrow. And those people said, before we will invest, we need the guarantee from government that these things we are agreeing today will remain the way they're going to be. We had to, as a nation, pass a law, a special law, just to guarantee them that investment. About 12, 15 years later, Nigeria has made over $30 billion in taxes, dividend to government, etc. from NLNG. That should say something to us. We needed to pass a law for one company to do business. What they are looking for is guarantees, assurances, such that the uncertainties they have to deal with will be those outside our control, or maybe those that we can consider acts of God, not acts of man. If you create the right environment, the General Electrics of the world, the Siemens of the world, will be queuing up to come and help us generate electricity because it's a no-brainer they will sell and make cool money. So the biggest impact we will make, if we must diversify away from oil, we come from how we run our organizations, how we run our institutions, government agencies, and how we run government. The National Assembly should not be fixated on their political interests. They should be interested in the public interest and public good. There are laws we need to pass to make Nigeria more competitive. As we speak today, even for me, a patriotic Nigerian, I will struggle to put a group of companies in Nigeria because we have double layers of taxation you pay when you have a holding company. You then find people looking for where to hold their investment in Africa, and naturally Nigeria comes to mind. But when you're done with the analysis, nobody comes back. And for every opportunity like that that we lose, it's employment that we're losing as well. When people are not employed, when people can't see social services, they lose the sense of patriotism. And that's when you can see people easily take up arms or even destroy public infrastructure without feeling any sense of guilt, because we've almost damaged their conscience. So this is a time, in my view, I think it's actually a great opportunity for this nation to say, not anymore. We have to take a different course. You can't continue to do things the same way and expect a different result. We know prayer is good, but you also must act. I think that sometimes it's even a disrespect to God when you ask him to come and do things he has empowered you to do. It is not God to write our laws for us. It is not God to tell us that if this is one way, you don't face it as an oncoming vehicle. It is not God that will stop us from littering the streets all over the place. Little things count. I'd like to close by saying that the future will always remain uncertain, but you can always react very quickly. Sometimes you may not be the person to innovate. Nigerians are very innovative. I can just imagine very soon if we create the right atmosphere and this economy will blossom. It will be amazing. We should be 10 times our size today if things were working right. You may not always be the one to innovate, but sometimes you also need to respond very quickly. The world is talking about Panama Papers, and we see countries where they're already changing their laws, setting up committees. We are not even saying it. It's not even our biggest problem. When the CEO of Nokia was handing over Nokia to Microsoft, he said, "We did not do anything wrong, but somehow we lost." And he wept. And I said, well, maybe it wasn't about things you did wrong, it was things you failed We must continue to hold ourselves accountable and hold our leaders accountable. I'm positive in the future of Nigeria and in the future of Nigerians. And together, I believe that we will not only survive, we will thrive. Thank you very much.
Please, he deserves a lot more than that. Come on, let's give him a round of applause. Please be seated. He's spoken quite a lot about a number of contradictions, but it's what we do with the information that we get here that counts. What we take back from messages like this. Very quickly, we're just going to mention a few things to just keep us back in frame, especially for those who are just coming in. For our speakers, we are going to have about 35 minutes, and there's a teleprompter just to your right that you can use to time yourself as we go ahead with the program. So it's 35 minutes for each speaker. For our folks who are also just coming in, this is a live telecast, and it's important that we have our phones switched off. For those who want to use the conveniences, we have one on the left and on the right, just at the back of the auditorium. So I hope you're having a great time. I hope you're having a great time.
I stay in Ogun State.
I'm staying at Costa. I'm living in Bariga. Don't attend this one, Dada. Model like be to one sherry. I'm on the rushing.
We were given numbers and we followed the numbers up to the point where we attended to.
So organized, so cool, so wonderful.
I love the system. Doctors try and bring the right care.
We saw the specialists one by one, and it it was okay.